Hello, hello, hello. Today is 2.3, adding and subtracting and multiplying polynomials. Today you're just going to use basic arithmetic operations on polynomials of various degrees. So the first thing we're going to talk about is adding and subtracting. That's just combining the coefficients of like terms. So your x squareds go with your x squareds and your x cubes go with your x cubes and so on. So here I have an example to add 2x to the third minus 5x squared plus 3x minus 9 with x to the third plus 6x plus 11. Now there's two ways that you can do this. You can do it vertically, which is what I have here on the left, or you can do it horizontally, which is what I have here on the right. If you're going to use the vertical method, you'll likely have to rewrite the problem because usually it's given to you horizontally. No big deal. So to add them vertically, you're going to line up the terms that match. So I have my x to the thirds lined up. I have my x squareds lined up. I have my x's lined up. Notice how there's a blank space here. I left a blank space on purpose so that I didn't put things together that don't go. And I have my constants at the end lined up. So when I add these together, I have 2x to the third plus x to the third is 3x to the third. I have negative 5x squared plus 6x squared is x squared. 3x squared plus no term at all is just 3x, stays the same. And negative 9 plus 11 is a positive 2. So that's what you get when you add them vertically. Now when you add them horizontally, you should get the same thing. When I do it horizontally, I start at the left and add from left to left, right to right, or whatever it is by lining up the terms. And I put a little check mark over them after I've used them so I know I've done everything. So I have 2x to the third plus x to the third is 3x to the third. So I'm going to put a check and a check so I know I added those. Negative 5x plus 6x squared is a positive x squared. I'm going to put check and a check. Negative 3x plus nothing is still negative 3x, so I put check. And negative 9 plus 11 is a plus 2. Now you notice when I write my answers, those answers are in standard form. You should always put your answers in standard form. Remember that standard form is the highest exponent in the beginning down to the lowest exponent or the constant at the end. So here I just have two DIY problems. Oddly enough, I made them both subtraction problems. I don't know why I did that. So I just left the same two questions in the beginning to subtract, and then I gave you another subtraction problem for you guys to do. Be very careful on this second DIY because you'll notice that we have 3x squared, or a 3y squared and a 4y squared. They match. And I have a negative 2y squared. Oopsies. Well, I don't know why that is. Let's just change this to be y to the third. Okay. Change your notes to make that y to the third. So we have a 3y to the third with nothing to go with. So it's just going to come over. A 2y squared and a 4y squared, so you'll combine those. A 7y combined with a 7y, and nothing to go with the negative 5y. So keep that in mind when you're subtracting. Make sure your signs are correct. All right, so next up we have multiplying. To multiply, you just distribute everything to everything. Be very careful, be very organized, be very neat, be very everything. So for this, to multiply the following, you would just use distributing. Usually when I do it, I would rewrite this problem to be y minus 2 in the front and negative 2y squared plus 3y minus 6 at the back. I just like to have my smaller one in front. Now, when I multiply, I kind of mix together a horizontal and vertical kind of situation. So when I do these, you'll see how I get my answer. Y times negative 2y squared is going to be negative 2y to the third. We know that because this y has a 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Then I do y. Here, let me draw you some arrows. So that's what it looks like when you distribute everything to everything. So y times 3y is going to be 3y squared. And y times negative 6 is negative 6y. So that's my first one. I took this first y and I multiplied it by everything here. Now I'm going to take this -2 and I'm going to multiply by everything in the parentheses. But when I write it over on the right here, I'm going to write it kind of differently. So it's going to look a little bit like this vertical situation. So I have -2 times -2y squared is going to be a positive 4y squared. And I put that underneath my squared term. You could just write it in a big long row if you want to. I just find that this is a little easier to combine your like terms and it takes up less space. So I have -2 times 3y is going to be -6y. And -2 times -6 is plus 12. Now when I go to combine these terms, I'm going to use my vertical method. So that's -2y to the third plus 7y squared plus minus 12y plus 12. So if you had done this in a big long row, you would see that it's just, it would just be way longer here, and you can kind of check off the way that we do things up here. Is this right? Okay, I hope that all recorded. Let me go back up just to make sure. Now, when I do example 2 part B, I'm going to do kind of the same thing as part A, but I'll do it all in a row so you can see the difference between them and you can decide which one you like better. So for example 2 part B, I'm going to do just the second 2 first. So when I do that, I get -x squared minus 3x minus 1x minus 3. So the problem I'm going to be multiplying now is 2x plus 1 times -x squared minus 4x minus 3. So you're going to distribute everything to everything just like we did at the top. So 2x times -x squared is going to be -2x to the third. 2x times -4x is minus 8x squared. And 2x times -3 is minus 6x. So that's my 2x times all this stuff. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my 1. I'm going to change colors so you can see the difference. We have 1 times -x squared is minus x squared. We have 1 times 4x is minus 4x. And we have 1 times -3 is minus 3. So this is what it would look like if it was in a long row. This one above here is what it looks like when you do kind of a vertical hybrid method. So when you go to combine your like terms, you're going to do the same thing that you did at the top with the horizontal method, putting little checks and making sure it's in standard form. So 2x to the third, -2x to the third doesn't have anything to go with, so it just comes down. -8x squared minus 8x squared is -9x squared. -6x minus 4x is -10x. And then my minus 3 just comes down. So this is my final answer. So whichever method you like to do here, do you want to do it vertically or do you want to write it in a big row? Whatever makes you happy is fine. So here I have a DIY problem. This is a very long DIY problem. You notice there's 3 terms in the first and 3 terms in the second. So if you're going to do it this horizontal method that I did in example 2B, it's going to get very long. If you're going to use this hybrid vertical method, it'll be a little bit shorter space-wise. So you guys do whatever you like, and we'll check it tomorrow.